We need to strengthen. We need to strengthen. I just put them in. Yes. I don't be this summer.
Yeah, please do have your seat. Thank you so much.
If we don't want it, so all our minds.
Please rise, yeah, here. Please be on your feet. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. You'll take the University Calabaso. seat. May I, with joy in my heart, welcome us to the 134th Inaugural. Before we go further,
permit me to make the following recognitions. May I recognize first on the high table the representative of the Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Greece. Can we put our hands together for her? Please make it louder. Thank you so much. May I also recognize her presence, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Tony Young. You're welcome, sir. Also to be recognized is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Linkages and Collaborations, Professor Peter Okafo. May I also recognize the registrar of this institution. She is no other person, the acting registrar, Dr. Mrs. Chukwuka Icha. You're welcome, ma'am. To be recognized also is a university librarian, the present Professor Anibiet Ntui. Please put your hands together for her. The Chairman Committee of Deans, Professor Ikaite Inang, is also here present. Put your hands together for her. And may I recognize the Provost College of Medical Sciences, Professor Ngam. Also to be recognized is the School of Postgraduate Studies, Professor Eyo Obama Eyo. And may I also recognize the citation reader, the person that will unravel the shadow behind the inaugural lecturer. That is another person, an Associate Professor of Midwifery, Department of Nursing Science, Dr. Mrs. Alberta David Esienumoh. Please put your hands together for her. Can we please put our hands together for her? We also recognize a Professor of Midwifery from the Department of Nursing Science and the 134th Inaugural Lecturer. She is no other person than Professor Epkpoanwan. Esienumoh. Please put your hands together. That is our mama. And I recognize all former vice chancellors in the hall. Please, you're here, you'll recognize. The Dean, specifically Faculty of Allied Medical Sciences, Professor Nelson. Recognize deans of other faculties, their present directors of institutes, heads of department, particularly head of department nursing science, Professor Regina Ella. You're welcome, ma'am. Please put your hands together for her. Members of staff from the Department of Nursing Science, Chairman Ceremonial Committee, Professor Chris Wamo, past inaugural lecturers, invited guests, members of the university community, Malabaita Malabresis. Malabaita Malabresis, thank you so much. And it's now time to recognize the immediate family of the inaugural lecturer. May I recognize the husband to the 134th inaugural lecturer. That is not a person, a retired lieutenant of Nigerian Navy, Esienumoh, Esienumoh. Can we put our hands together for him? You must know that is the love of our inaugural lecturer. The children are also here present. Esienumoh, you're here, just sign and wave at the panel. King Esienumoh, Amen. Uwem Daniel,
Your mother is not.
Abasi.
My mother,
Basi
on the
Esienumoh. You're welcome. Egidio Esienumoh. Can we put our hands together for them? A schoolmate from Manchester University, Dr. Margaret Mbu. I think she's absent. Siblings, some of them are here. So
the first female with beautiful things about what she has been doing to make sure that the women continue to be as radiant as I can see them looking now, that our mothers will no longer die when they want to go and bring more life, that our husbands will not be turned into widowers, parents will not be made to cry, but that we will continue to live as one happy family. And you know, things that pertain to women, usually
So today she's coming to show you and show me. She's coming to teach you and teach me how it is that she's been able to carry out all she has done. And that somewhere along here, none of us will be married. You are all welcome once again to the University of Calabar. It promises to be a very exciting evening. Ears open, eyes wide, mind open, and I bet you we will have a lot to be thankful for. So, on this note, I welcome you once again to the University of Calabar. Thank you. Once again, permit me now to invite Professor Olaide Bamidele Edet to read the citation of the 134th inaugural lecturer, Professor Epkpoanwan. Sorry for that mix up. What's written on this paper is different from the real thing. The chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite Dr. Mrs. Alberta David Esienumoh, an associate professor of midwifery, Department of Nursing Science, to take the citation of the 134th inaugural lecturer, Professor Epkpoanwan Esienumoh.
Our dear Vice Chancellor, hereby represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Inaugural, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academy, Professor Tony Eyang, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Linkages and Collaborations, Professor Peter Okafor, our dear Registrar and Secretary to Council, Dr. Mrs. Chukwuka Icha, our dear Provost, College of Medical Sciences, Professor Ngim, the University Librarian, Professor Aniebe Ntui, the spouse of the inaugural lecturer, retired Lieutenant, the Nigerian Navy, Esienumoh, Esienumoh, the entire family and associates. Permit me to stand on the already established protocol. I am indeed very humbled that I'm given this opportunity to read the citation of my teacher, my mentor, a role model, selfless personality, and a midwife par excellence. With due respect, man, may you remain standing. I'm sorry, man. A citation on Professor Esienumoh. Epkpoanwan Esienumoh, sorry, Professor of Midwifery. The 134th inaugural lecturer of the University of Calabar on this 22nd day of January 2025. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here to listen to an inaugural lecture from an iconic source, a woman whose remarkable journey and achievements serve as a powerful inspiration to us all. The lecture itself is a modest and cumulative contribution by Professor Epkpoanwan Esienumoh to improving maternal health outcomes through the interconnectedness of midwifery, women empowerment, and their ecosystem.
A living proof of the unspeakable spirit in all of us, but which unfortunately it is utilized by only a few. Baby Epkpoanwan arrived on the age in Maiduguri, northern Nigeria, in a pivotal year marked by significant
global events. Then was the realm of science and technology, when the polio vaccine was publicly released in the United States, paving the way to the near eradication of polio. Among other defiant happenings in Montgomery, Alabama, Nigeria was still a British colony at that time and was fought independence, which was eventually achieved in 1960. These events, among others, defined the year of her birth as progressive, defiant, and transformational, shaping the world into what it is today. Professor Epkpoanwan Esienumoh's father was Chief Basi Esienumoh Ganachibong of Esienumoh royal family, Obuton, in Calabar municipality of Cross River State. Her mother was Ninkoyo Otu Williamson of Adiabo Kaniobio in Odupani local government area of Cross River State. Her parents always encouraged the children to study smartly. They were strict disciplinarians, and if her father had any thoughts to flog any of them, her mother would always be beside him, encouraging him to flog them the more. This was an experience they loved. She was raised in a family with 9 other siblings. Madam Vice Chancellor, Esienumoh never wanted to be a nurse. Father's insistence. Rather than Dubai University of Nigeria, Nsukka entrance form, to go in and study geology, he persuaded her to take School of Nursing form, for fear that there were too many children in his hands to care for financially. At that time, student nurses were on salary grade level 4. When she went into the School of Nursing, she was motivated by 2 of her tutors, who were university graduates from the University of Ibadan. And she told herself that she will aspire to study nursing in the university. And not just that she will get to the peak of her career in nursing. God has helped her to achieve her dreams. Professor Esienumoh was employed at the University of Calabar in July 2000 as a lecturer 2 in the Department of Nursing Science. She was promoted to the rank of a professor of midwifery in 2020. Professor Mrs. Esienumoh obtained her Bachelor of Science degree in nursing with specialization in nursing education in 1988 from the University of Ibadan, and Masters of Public Health from University of Calabar in 1998. He was awarded a PhD degree in midwifery in 2011 by the University of Manchester, United Kingdom. She was admitted as a fellow of the West African College of Nursing, Faculty of Maternal and Child Health in 2006. She belongs to many professional associations, including National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Sigma Theta Chi International Honor Society of Nursing, International Council of Nursing, International Confederation of Midwives, Confederation of African Midwives, International Member, Royal College of Midwives, United Kingdom. Her main area of research interest is in the prevention of maternal and child mortality, in which she has carried out some researches with emphasis on empowering the rural communities to take action on prevention of this scourge. Since joining the University of Calabar, Professor Esienumoh has been deeply involved in the teaching, research, and mentoring of both undergraduate and postgraduate students, nationally and internationally. She has successfully supervised, co-supervised 11 postgraduate students and a graduate student thesis within and out University of Calabar. Professor Esienumoh is a regular participant in many local and international conferences, seminars, workshops, symposia, and other update programs in her area of specialty in countries such as South Africa, Czech Republic, United States of America, and Canada. She has published over 38 articles in both local and international peer-reviewed journals. She has also served as a reviewer to many journal publishing companies. She has earned 174 Global Scholar citations with 8 index and 8 I index. 25,755 scholars have read her publication. Professor Esienumoh has served the university in many capacities, including examination officer in 2001 and 2007. Acting head of the Department of Nursing Science from 2012 to 2014, and a member of the Calabar Senate, University of Calabar Senate, between 2012 and 2014. He became the Deputy Dean of Faculty of Allied Medical Science in 2023 to 2024. Thereafter, an acting Dean of the faculty in 2024. Professor Esienumoh served her sabbatical leave appointments at the Garden City University College, Kumasi, Ghana, where she was also the head of the Department of Midwifery between 2017 and 2019. During the time, she was the prime mover of the collaboration between the Garden City University College, Kumasi, Ghana, and the University of Calabar for the Master's/MPhil Midwifery program. She is a beneficiary of many awards, grants, and scholarships. The 2016 International Best State Fund Research Grants she benefited, Cross River State Nursing Foundation Grant of 2015, Best Graduating Nursing Students from the School of Nursing in Akwa Ibom State in 1977, Federal Government of Nigeria Postgraduate Scholarship for a Master's Degree Program in Public Health, government financial assistance for the payment of tuition for a PhD program in the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, and the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, to attend International Confederation of Midwives in Glasgow, United Kingdom in 2008. Sponsorship by ICM to attend the ICM conference in Durban, South Africa in 2011. Third sponsorship to attend ICM conference in Prague, Czech Republic in 2014. She has undertaken several assignments for the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. Professor Epkpoanwan Esienumoh is happily married with 5 adorable children and 8 grandchildren. Madam Vice Chancellor, it is my singular privilege to introduce to this audience an icon of midwifery, a strategic thinker, committed collaborator, self-driven, innovative, and resourceful leader, a resilient scholar with robust core values, a woman of impeccable integrity, first professor of medicine from University of Calabar, first professor of medicine from South Nigeria, the Florence Nightingale of our time. Join me in welcoming Professor Mrs. Epkpoanwan Esienumoh, the 134th lecturer of the University of Calabar.
The Vice Chancellor, University of Calabar, Professor Florence Banku Obi, here represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Professor Inaugural. Other Deputy Vice Chancellors, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Professor Tony Eyan, Deputy Vice Chancellor, External Linkages, Research, External Relations and Linkages, Professor Peter Okafor, the acting registrar of this institution, Dr. Mrs. Chukwuka Icha, the Dean of Deans, Chairman Committee of Deans, Professor Ekaite Enan. All other protocols duly observed. I am really grateful to God for this special privilege to pay my debt as academic in the University of Calabar. As the 134th inaugural lecturer, I feel greatly honored to be given this opportunity by the Vice Chancellor and the management to be the key player in today's age-old tradition for the gown to meet the sound. This inaugural lecture is dictated from the Department of Nursing Science. It is the river. However, all hope is not lost because there's mitigation through midwives and other professionals whereby can be supported. The network or ecosystem of the woman can be mobilized to work out professionals to prevent or reduce surge of women dying as a result of getting pregnant or having babies. Interest was raised towards the question of maternal mortality when I lost a colleague, a nurse midwife. A few years later, I also lost my dear both to childbirth. the aspect of it all was that some of their deaths were preventable. Been alive, probably they would have been in this lecture. Incident stirred my emotion to develop midwifery further to be part of the crusade maternal death. In this process, I have been able to win some comments from my colleagues and the general public. In this lecture, I intend to share my views and implications of findings to the midwife, the woman, and her ecosystem. Basically, offspring reproduction is a natural physiological process designed by to maintain the existence of various species of simple and or complex organisms. The process of reproduction definitely results in an increase in the population of the species. In the case of humans, as heterosexual, the female is naturally with the function of getting pregnant and giving birth. This phenomenon is a more physiological process and should not result in the death of the mother or the female. Giving birth should bring life and not bring death. This is not so in some situations because the female may lose her life in the being pregnant, giving or thereafter. The probability is that some women may not have a favorable outcome. Humans design means of making pregnancy and childbirth safe by providing support for the reproductive aged woman to perform a function of childbearing safely. According to biblical accounts, God did not create any other person after he had created Adam and Eve. At least I've not seen that in the Bible. As documented in the Holy Book. So God created man, male and female. He created them. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27. Then God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. Therefore, pregnancy and childbirth are divinely orchestrated. They are physiological processes. It is assumed that the first man, Adam, may have assisted or played the role of a midwife or wife during childbirth, or that Eve may have supernaturally given birth without any assistance. However, that debate lacks data.
Change everything.
So it is hazy because of dearth of information. And so I leave you to figure that out, reason it out. Who was the midwife to Eve when she had her babies? Well, so we move on. Since we are looking at the midwife, the woman or her client, and her ecosystem, we now move on to the midwife. So before defining who the midwife is, in technical terms, I would like to review a brief of midwifery, which is the profession of midwives. History has shown that a crop of women known as midwives arose from various cultures in ancient civilization to assist or support women during childbirth. From the Stone Age to the modern day, midwives have come to stand with women. Midwifery is therefore an ancient profession. It is as natural and critical to humanity as childbirth itself, upholding and reflecting the cultural practices of women and their families. The practice of midwifery is traced back to the Paleolithic era. In pregnancy and childbirth, women were required to give birth in challenging and often life-threatening environments. Women supported themselves during birth based on knowledge and skills learned from observing mammals and from their own personal experiences. Indigenous cultures throughout the world practice diverse traditions around birth, many of which were spiritual and rooted in nature and herbal medicine. The Maori people in New Zealand had a culture of burning everything pertaining to childbirth after the woman has put to bed. And we don't have time to go through the various cultures to see what happened. In the Egyptian and Greek Roman eras, which span between 3,500 BC to 300 BC, that witnessed tremendous progress in the development of midwifery. Though there was progress, strategy also struck. When male medicine men now came into the scene and tried to be the supervisors of the midwives. So it continued also in various parts of the world. It's right that in Europe and Mediterranean, otherwise known as the biblical era, there was empowerment of the women. This played a role in developing professionalism in midwifery, and birthing stools were widely used. Another tragedy struck with the arrival of high middle ages between 1000 and 1200 AD, where female midwives were considered to be heretics, and they were so persecuted to the point that some of them were sentenced to death. They were actually put to death for the good work that they were doing in assisting or supporting women to give birth. Of course, we are very, very familiar with China and their herbal medicine. They were not also left out. They had midwifery practice in the rudiments, and they were mainly using their herbs and roots. Then in Africa, traditional midwives had been integral parts of medicine for centuries until the 19th century, when male physicians replaced midwives with male supervised obstetricians. Then coming back home to Nigeria, what happened? So in Nigeria, we have a very long, interesting history that spans the pre-colonial era, the colonial era, and the post-colonial era. Of course, in the pre-colonial era, the traditional birth attendants were really thriving in businesses, and they did whatever they did based on their beliefs, what they need to do. There was nobody supervising anybody, and their practices were based on their cultural beliefs. Now, then came the pre-colonial, then came the colonial era, the practices. The practices here were still going on without any formal training, but by this time the colonial masters had come and they brought in their own culture, and there's some trained midwives because they needed their wives to be attended to, they needed their workforce also to be attended to. But when Nigeria had independence in 1960, the things changed. Because at this time, the Nigerians have learned that people could be trained formally from the colonial masters to become midwives. So that marked the beginning of formal training of midwives. We had the Midwives Board of Nigeria to control the training of midwives and regulate the practice of midwifery. So that continued and continued to progress until where we are today. Then the big question is, who is a midwife? By settled, a midwife is a person who has successfully completed a midwifery education program based on the International Confederation of Midwives Essential Competencies for midwifery practice and the framework of the ICM Global Standard for Midwifery Education, recognized in the country where it is located, who has acquired the requisite qualification to be registered and or legally licensed to practice midwifery and use the title midwife, and who demonstrates competency in the practice of midwifery. Then we go on to the preparation of midwives. How they prepared? We are familiar with having schools of midwifery and so on. And now midwifery also can be studied in the university. But the curriculum must be based on the International Confederation of Midwives, which looks at the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of the midwife. So people do not just rise up from other people, take care of pregnant women, and address themselves as midwives. Okay. Now, going to the definition of what a midwife is, we know that there were essential competencies which a midwife had to be exposed to, the student midwife had to be exposed to be able to be addressed as a midwife, to be able to qualify as a midwife. So these essential competencies have been categorized into 5 sections. One is the cross-functional competencies for midwifery practice. In this, because our clients as midwives, they are not patients because they are not sick. They are only fulfilling a physiological process of giving birth. So we don't call those pregnant women patients. They are our clients. Okay, so the first set of competence is the curriculum for the training of midwives must have a cross competencies for midwifery practice. So when attending to the woman who is in her continuum of childbearing, that is from the pre-pregnancy through pregnancy, labor, childbirth, and post-childbirth, she would also, like any other human being, like any other woman, require some care, which is like nursing care. first competency
And this
talks
your
about
one.
that. Then the second category of the essential competencies for the midwife is sexual and reproductive health. This, of course, talks about emphasizing on family planning, reproductive health. And then now, the third one is the antenatal care. The woman has become pregnant and she needs to be cared for. She needs to be monitored to ensure that she will have a positive outcome. Then we also have another competency talking about the end of that pregnancy when the woman is now ready to give birth. So this competence in this category is about assessment of care of women during labor that facilitates physiological purposes and safe birth. The immediate care of the newborn, detection of complications in mother or the newborn, stabilization of emergencies, and referral of complications because as stipulated by the World Health Organization, it's about normalcy. Our philosophy talks about the physiology of reproduction, looking at it from the natural perspective. And we midwives, we see deviation from normal as being now the doctor's case. So in that case, midwife will not keep that woman when there's deviation. She has to invite the obstetrician and she will partner with the obstetrician for continuity of care to attend to the woman now who has become a patient. Her client, because there's complication, she is now a patient. So the final competency in the fifth category is after the woman now has given birth, she still requires attention. And the midwife must also have knowledge, skills, and attitude to be able to attend to the woman. Now, still analyzing the definition of who a midwife is, apart from the essential competencies, we also saw that the International Confederation of Midwives emphasizes that midwifery education must be of a high standard. So knowledge, skills, and the right attitudes towards the care of a woman in the process of procreation. So we can see the midwife there at work with the pregnant client, no complication. So that is some woman feel. So the woman is a bit cold to distract her from the pain, and the backbone offers that assistance. There are other things too that the midwife can do to increase the comfort of the woman, but I will not go into that now. So that's the midwife. This midwife has some challenges, particularly in our time. There may not be adequate workforce. The hands are not enough for her to be able to carry out her responsibility towards her clients or patients, as the case may be. Especially these days that many people, there is a syndrome, the syndrome that many of our nurses and midwives have left the country. It makes the situation worse. So now, let's talk about the midwife briefly. Let's now look at this woman.
who is the client of the midwife. It's a biosocial aspect, because she can come to us and we examine everything is normal. We examine her, assess her, everything looks normal, but she may not have peace with herself. There could be problems at home, and that can in turn affect this pregnancy. And some of that is for those who are normal, they can have the natural birth, and some that come to the midwives are those that we classify as high risk. Like I mentioned earlier, for the high risk, some of them could be because they have had underlying medical problems that get worse during the pregnancy. Some of them could have had terrible previous experiences during the previous childbirth. So these ones are those that we call high risk, and the midwife will not undertake the care of this woman alone. She has to do it in collaboration with the obstetrician, as the case may be. Other healthcare professionals, like a pediatrician, depending on if the fetus has problem or the baby when born has problems. So the midwife there collaborates with everyone that will be able to answer the questions of the woman, that will be able to attend to the woman. So this woman is also from a background that may be different from that of the midwife. While the midwife came from a certain background before she got educated, especially to become a midwife, and because of that, she is now acting professional and is not holding onto cultural beliefs in her background. Here we see the client of the midwife may come with her own belief system. And the midwife should be able to identify this, because some belief systems are inimical to health, so that the midwife will be able to counsel, to educate the woman, partner with the woman, so that this woman can be empowered to be able to take care of herself also, well with the midwife, to have a positive outcome. Then looking at the ecosystem, the kinds or woman's ecosystem consists of the network of people that should be considered in midwifery care. We don't only look at the women that come to us. We know that the woman has a family, the woman comes from a community. And this woman that has come to us because that's what we encourage midwives to do, partner with the woman so that there won't be that power kind of relationship, that the woman would not be so afraid of the midwife and not be able to open up to share her concerns with the woman. So it's a partnership relationship between the midwife and the woman that she is attending to. So in a situation where in that interaction, the midwife is educating the woman on, for example, nutrition in pregnancy. And we are asking her, you have to have the various classes of food, etc., to be able to be well nourished in pregnancy. Her background is singing another song. The background is from their cultural belief is saying her, you don't have to eat egg,
so that fetus in your womb will not be born to become a thief. Yes, we find that a lot. The background, so telling her, you don't have to eat. When we the professional midwives, are educating her to make vegetables part of what she is, we can mention okra because there's someone here in our setting. So the woman may be confused because her background is telling her, don't eat okra because it is slimy, don't eat snails, it is slimy, otherwise that baby you are going to give birth to will draw saliva. So you see, that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing. So the midwife has a lot of work to do to be able to bring up this woman to the point that she is empowered to stand against every contrary voice and go the way, scientific way, to have a positive outcome. So because of that, the midwife, having related with the woman over time, consistently, it is expected that there is a cordial relationship between the woman and her client, between the midwife and her client. And from that relationship will extend to the woman's family, because if the midwife treats the woman well, it will be easy to warm into the woman's family and also continue with the process of educating the family. And from there, it will go beyond that woman's family to the larger community where the woman comes from. So you can see that one midwife and client relationship have a multiplier effect. It will extend to her family, her spouse, and other members of the family, and the larger society, and improve the health of the woman, to give her a positive outcome. And if she has a positive outcome, what's the purpose, the target of what we're doing? It's to ensure that this woman comes out safe following pregnancy and childbirth. So I use this triangle to illustrate the relationship between the midwife, her client, and her family and community. So now, we've addressed some areas of the title of the study, or title of this lecture, which is the midwife, the woman, and her ecosystem. And we are also saying that, asking the question, can this trio relate, interact to reduce maternal mortality? Maternal mortality is simply the death of the woman due to a childbirth-related conditions. So here we're going to look briefly into maternal mortality. Pregnancy and childbirth, when wanted, are usually celebrated in many cultures. Okay? Unfortunately, some mothers lose their lives in the process of procreation, so that instead of bringing joy, it is something that brings fear. This incident, described as maternal mortality, has become a global issue. It's not limited to Calabar, it's not limited to Nigeria, it's a worldwide issue. Generally, maternal mortality refers to the death of a woman due to pregnancy-related causes. And the World Health Organization has a definition for maternal mortality or maternal death. A very simple definition is what I will share here, and this is what applies to us in our own setting, the low and middle income countries or the developing countries. The death of maternal mortality is the death of a woman while pregnant or within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and size of the pregnancy from any cause related to or aggravated by pregnancy or its management, but not from accidental and incidental causes. In other words, if a pregnant woman
Because we're working with all the necessary
gets involved in an accident and she dies, that is not a maternal mortality, because that could happen to any other woman who is not pregnant. So the mortality here must be related to the childbearing process. So what are the causes of maternal mortality? These are classified into two areas. One, the one that is obstetric causes or direct causes that's related to pregnancy. We've been hearing of women bleeding to death, like postpartum hemorrhage. So the woman can bleed to death, and commonly it happens after she has put to bed. And intervention must be given quickly to be able to save a life. So there can also be a problem of sepsis after childbirth also. Depending on how the delivery field was managed, infection could have been introduced to this woman. Like some of the things that happen in our places of TBAs, like a TBA that I visited, I observed her practice. She showed me her delivery source behind her kitchen, mud kitchen. And what did she use? A plank on the ground, not floor, beside her garden. And another plank kept slantingly with a trunk at the head to keep that plank in a slanting position. She said that was where she was having her babies, helping women to have their babies. And our women go to those places. Well, let's go on. So such women can easily be infected, and it's a cause of maternal death. Some women may also twitch, and we call it eclampsia. They twitch, and if adequate attention is not given, if adequate attention is not given promptly, she can also die. Some fetuses could be larger than the passageway, that is the maternal pelvis, and it can cause obstruction. So if the woman comes to the hospital, for example, that will be diagnosed early, and she could be booked for an elective cesarean section. That becomes the case of the obstetrician. And some women also die as a result of unsafe abortion. They could bleed to death following the unsafe abortion, and they may also develop infection. Those are the 5 major areas of the direct obstetric causes, direct causes of maternal mortality. We can also have women dying as a result of problems that they have had, for example, being hypertensive and getting pregnant, being a diabetic and getting pregnant, for example, those chronic diseases. When such women get pregnant, then beyond the midwife, they need the doctor to be in the team so that the midwife, in continuity of care, will still be with a woman under the care of the doctor. So, but imagine a situation where this ones go to traditional birth attendants. Those are potential maternal deaths loading. So, the long and short is, with this maternal mortality, 95% of women that die, they come from our own setting in the developing countries. Okay. Is that every year, 287,000 women throughout the whole world die as a result of childbirth-related issues. equivalent to almost 800 maternal deaths, women dying every day. 800 women dying every day. And this translates to one woman dying every 2 minutes. That's how terrible this scourge is. And so it has to be taken very seriously. So, and it's also observed, it has been found that for every woman that dies, 20 other women will suffer from ill health or disability as a result of complications of childbirth. And imagine the children that they give birth to. 70% of these children have been found not also to survive. They die within the first month of life because their mother is not alive. This, you may not see this, but what that table tries to show is that the scourge of maternal mortality is highest in the sub-Saharan Africa. We have very high figures, and within the sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria has the highest maternal mortality. In this whole world, Nigeria has the highest maternal mortality. Some years previously, India had the highest maternal mortality, but have been able to improve their status. And they were followed by Nigeria. India was first and Nigeria was second. But now, India has now become second and Nigeria has become number one. Problem in Nigeria. Yes, studies have shown that situation that many of our women are dying, and particularly in the rural areas. You see that the concentration of healthcare facilities, highly qualified professionals in the urban areas. Our rural areas are not well developed, and so professionals don't want to live there to serve the people. It's the problem, and our women are dying. I try to question myself. I try to wonder why we don't have structures, healthcare structures in our rural areas that can take care of these women. And some of our leaders, I don't know whether to say that, I am afraid to say it or not, but it's the truth, is that when a big man's wife is pregnant, plan is made for that person to go to another setting that people have sacrificially set up to have a baby. And probably that child is expected to become a citizen of that country. So what is wrong with Nigeria? Yes. So there are strategies for the reduction of maternal mortality as stipulated by the World Health Organization. There are three major strategies. One is the need for skilled birth attendants. And when we say skilled birth attendants, the traditional birth attendant is not part of it. So the midwife is skilled birth attendant. The doctor trained in midwifery skills is also a skilled attendant. We have options there in that country. So skilled birth attendants. It is the right of the woman to be attended by skilled birth attendants. But what happens? The women themselves, for their personal reasons and beliefs, would not even want to come, because the experience we have is that not all the women who come to register at the antenatal clinic and are attended to would return to have their babies in that healthcare facility. They would come. So it baffles me that for over 2 decades, this statistics is still the same, that only 30% of these women that we attend to in the hospitals or even the health come to have their babies at the healthcare centers or the hospitals. Then 70% of them will go to traditional birth attendants, some of whom are illiterate. But they are them that they have spiritual powers. They can take care of them. To the extent that the women, towards the time of childbirth, would even leave their houses to go and hide, in quotes, in the houses of the CBAs, where evil spirits will not see them. That is the situation that we are experiencing. Okay, and this has been so for about 2 decades, or more than 2 decades, continually. Okay, then another strategy by WHO to reduce maternal mortality is emergency obstetric care. You know, training people, midwives have been, many midwives have been trained to undertake emergency obstetric care. So we do the basic emergency obstetric care to be able to attend to the 80% of those direct obstetrical causes like the bleeding, the infection, the sepsis, eclampsia, that's the twitching, the unsafe abortion, cephalopelvic disproportion, that's obstructed labor. The midwives have been trained that will be able to give like a first aid, let me say so, to save the life of the woman before this woman is referred to where she can be more sophisticated care. So emergency obstetric care. Okay, so community mobilization is also part of what the WHO recommends. That's why I have the community as part of the triumvirate, part of the ecosystem, as part of the ecosystem for the woman. Now, looking at the last component of the topic of this lecture, triumvirate for the reduction of maternal mortality. Can this company of the midwife, the woman, her family, and her community help work together to reduce the scourge of dying during childbirth? Of course, my position and the position of other midwives is that yes, it is possible. So we look beyond these women and attend to their families, to win their support, so that they can have understanding. All need to be empowered to be able to help the woman. So, going from this, I would want to look at my contributions, because studies have been carried out to show that the woman, her family, the society can work with the midwife to reduce maternal mortality. So what are my contributions to research in this area? I undertook a study on empowering members of a rural community in the southern part of Nigeria to plan to take action to prevent maternal mortality. And I did this through a participatory paradigm, participatory action research. So what were the key findings? Community members attributed maternal morbidities and death mortalities to superstitious causes. They know the things that kill women, those 5 major areas that I mentioned as direct obstetric causes, they know. But they do not accept that those things just happen. They believe that there's an evil hand behind it, behind a woman bleeding following childbirth, etc. So what did I conclude from that study? The community is a resource, because with the action research, it involved the women, their families, their spouses, significant members of their families like mothers-in-law, other matrons, and then the larger community. And the conclusion was that community is a resource which, if like through the process of a participatory research, can be empowered to plan to take action to reduce maternal mortality. And in that study, when we evaluated it, the community, the women and the families have learned a lot. Because when we did the first part of that study, the health center that was in that cluster of the communities. The women had abandoned the use of the health facility for about 15 years. No woman was going to that place for anything pregnancy and childbirth. Rather, the traditional birth attendance businesses were really booming. So when we had educated them, worked with them, the evaluation was very positive. And in fact, some of them said, and I quote, a man who said that if I had known what I know today, from what you have done, that's referring to me, from what you have done, all the things that you have taught us, my wife who died would not have died. It was very, very pathetic. So you find that some of these are women dying is as a result of ignorance. Okay? The other man, a clergyman, because he was part of the study also, he said that what he does is that now he listens to the education, that he deliberately takes a list of reproductive age in his church so that they will go through pregnancy safely. Another study was on the perception and practice. Okay, let me leave that out. Perception and practice of midwife-led care. Of course, that was to encourage, to find out what midwives were aware that they were capable of doing to help the women reduce maternal mortality. We found that some midwives were not midwives were not really empowered to be able to practice fully what they were taught to practice. Okay, then another study I undertook was on cultural diversity in childbirth. That also was very, very revealing, because a woman may want to have so many children, even up to 10, just because she wants to qualify to be called a woman. Why? Because if you have even 100 children and they are all females, you have not yet started. You have not yet started to have babies. So you see, while we are encouraging, in the modern healthcare balance, we are encouraging the women at least to have fewer children to maintain their health integrity. But out there, our clients are saying, have as many as possible until you have a male child, so that your husband will not marry a second wife. And that is to the detriment of the women, because it weakens the uterus, the womb, and she might lose her life in the process of that to ruptured uterus, and she may bleed to death. Okay? And when we are saying that childbirth should be delayed until the girl is about 18 years, women in the rural areas in that study are saying that after all, I had my baby at 12, there's nothing wrong with having baby at 12. So that's the kind of thing. Okay. We also undertook a study on risk assessment among pregnant women in Nigeria in our antenatal clinics, and I found that the risk assessment were based only on the biological aspect. Remember, I said that we are looking at the biopsychosocial aspect of the woman. Her culture is not taken into consideration. That has to be considered also in assessing the risk the woman is exposed to in childbirth. Looking at provision of emergency obstetric care on the women, if the case arises, we also discovered that not many midwives are yet trained in the provision of emergency obstetric care. We also looked at maternal, newborn, and child health services utilization and compared the utilization at primary healthcare level with tertiary healthcare level. We find that our women were not too comfortable with the care because of certain protocols that we undertake in the hospitals or even at primary health care centers. We would want them to move from this after getting a card, go to the lab, go there, get your results, and so on and so on. It's time wasting for these women and it discourages them. And we are looking at prevention of maternal death, reduction of maternal death. And some of them say that's why they don't come back to have their babies, because we waste their time so much. And also paying for their services. That's just a few because my time is almost up. And I go right away into acknowledgements. I thank the Almighty God so much for making it possible for me to get to the peak of my career. Oh, to God only be the glory, because I never wanted to be a nurse. I was one of those stunting people who say they want to do nursing in the secondary school. But here am I today. My father never cooperated with me because he had 10 children and I am the first. Well, I thank God that it has paid off. I promised myself that going into nursing, I would strive to get to the peak of my career. And my husband was also taunting me that I was APC nurse. I said, my God, how can I remain an APC nurse? I have to aspire, and God has helped me. So I also want to thank my parents. Although Papa didn't send me to university when I wanted to, I went to university much later, after I had married. I thank him because he laid the foundation for good education. Yes. My mother also was always ensuring that we were studying. She had us all girls, 6 before the boys came. So God bless them. They are late now. So may their souls rest in peace. Yes. I also express my gratitude to my husband, Esienumoh, for always encouraging me to develop myself educationally. Yes, he would always take care of the children for me to go to school. Thank you very much. To our beloved children and their spouses, Ekanem Esienumoh and Mrs. Mirabel Esienumoh, Engineer Eno Esienumoh and Mrs. Idorenyan Esienumoh. My daughter, Esienumoh, now Mrs. Daniels, and her husband, Uwem Daniel. The fourth one, Abasiye Esienumoh, Esquire, and his wife, Onyeka Esienumoh. And the baby of the house, Miss Edidium Esienumoh. You have been very, very supportive in your own ways. I also express my appreciation to my grandchildren. They are really fun to be with. Yes. So I also acknowledge my siblings and my cousins for supporting me. They all created a congenial atmosphere for us to grow up with, that you would not even know who is the parent to who. All our fathers, our uncles, they were papa. All our mothers were mama. And we are still close till today. God bless you all. I thank the larger family, the Basieso, Hogan Achibong of Obuton, Calabar, where I come from natally. Then the Osweko Williamson's family of Adiabo, where my mother comes from. I also want to thank God for the Michael Obo Efara, our matriarch, our grandmother, for bringing up her children and transmitting that love of togetherness into us. I want to also thank my marital family in Epkpoanwan, Inaugural, in Akwa Ibom State, the Esienumoh family. I'm happy to belong to all these families. God bless you all. My appreciation goes to our amiable Vice Chancellor, Professor Florence Banku Obi, for giving me the opportunity to present my inaugural lecture. God bless her. And may she continue to be insightful in her administration. I thank her and her team. I also thank the immediate past Vice Chancellor, Professor Ibaresu, who employed me to work as a lecturer in the Department of Nursing Science. God bless him. And other vice chancellors that succeeded him, Professor Baxi Asufo of blessed memory, who approved for me to study at PhD level in midwifery in Manchester. May his soul rest in peace. I also deeply appreciate Professor Eka, who, when UNICAL gave me appointment as lecturer too, I was already a deputy director in the State Ministry of Health, teaching in School of Nursing and at times doubling teaching in schools of midwifery. So Professor, I was so confused whether to take up this appointment or not. Professor Eka said, just come over into academics, you will see the difference. And I thank her so much, wherever she is, that it has really paid off. I wouldn't have done a PhD if I was still in the States. So thank you, ma'am. I thank the Provost of the College of Medical Sciences, Professor Ngum, our immediate past deans, Professor Akpabio, Professor Regina Esienumoh, and the current acting dean, Professor Nelson Osuchukwu of the Faculty of Allied Medical Sciences, for being supportive to my cause by creating a positive administrative milieu in us to work. My thanks go to the head of my department in nursing science, Professor Regina Ella, an astute administrator, gathering us like mother hen, gathering the children. God bless you, man. I thank God for my colleagues. You are simply wonderful. Members of the planning committee for this inaugural lecture, headed by our able associate professor, Alberta David Esienumoh, the citation reader. They took the burden off me greatly. They gave me a shoulder to lean on. God bless all of you. And all my other colleagues in the department, you have assisted me, you have supported me in various ways. God bless all of you. My students, past and present, here, nationally and in diaspora, God bless all of you for being there for me. Yes, I want to thank especially also Professor Mildred John, who is a prime mover for us in the Department of Nursing. You know, when I had my master's, I never thought that there was any need to go further to have a PhD. But we saw a nurse having a PhD and then became a professor. So all of us were inspired. So that in that small department, we have not less than about 6 or 7 professors and more are upcoming. Thank you very much, Professor John. Thank you, Professor Laide Edes, also for being very, very supportive. God bless all of you. So I heartily appreciate the Garden City University College in Ghana for giving me giving me the opportunity to work in an international environment. God bless all of you. I can never forget the University of Manchester, 1824. That's what we call it. My happy gratitude goes to my supervisor, Professor Heather Waterman, my assistant supervisor, Dr. Jeanette Alote, my academic advisor, Professor Anne Carretz, friends, Professor Duque, Professor Ann Thompson, an emeritus professor of midwifery. They all contributed to making inputs in my life. So I thank my dear friend, Dr. Margaret Mbogo, head girl, as I called her. She encouraged me to come along and study in Manchester, and it has paid off. I highly appreciate the clergy for the spiritual input, the spiritual support that they have made in my life. The current chaplain of Unicol Chapel of Redemption, Reverend Dr. Joseph Ushie, and his wife, the immediate past chaplain of Unicol Chapel of Redemption, Reverend Israel Ayo, and his wife, Elder Mrs. Arik Lisa Ayo. The one that he took over from Reverend Felix Ajoku and pharmacist Mrs. Ajoku. The last but not the least is it's Bishop Tunde Adeleye and Mama Calabar. You are all, I will never forget the inputs, the strength that I derive from the messages that I get from you and for your prayers. I also want to thank Reverend Sylvester Ekpe, my in-law, for making out time to be here and for his spiritual support also. God bless you, sir. I thank the Church of God Mission team of ministers of the gospel, Reverend Kenneth Chiazo and his wife, Reverend Mrs. Chiazo, then the Bishop Designate of Calabar, Reverend Chris Ekpan and his wife, Reverend Dr. Juliet Ekpan. I thank my undergraduate students and the postgraduate students also, because without you, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to see how I can mentor anybody, to experience mentoring people. Thank you very much for being there and for supporting me also. I appreciate the training and development unit and the registry for painstakingly organizing this inaugural lecture. The information unit of the Vice Chancellor's office. Guys, this place, somebody kept it, Mr. Epkpoanwan. God bless all of you. The last but not the least are my friends, my mentees, nationally and in diaspora. You have supported me in no mean way. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. Thank you. Then, to my conclusion, we have seen that the midwife is very, very important in the process of reduction of maternal mortality, that if she works with the client and the ecosystem of the client, if we emphasize that, maternal mortality can be reduced. 2030 is just by the corner for the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. But where are we in Nigeria? Our maternal mortality rate is still very, very high, over 1,000 per 100,000 live births. And the chances of Nigerian women dying out of childbirth is also very, very scary. Thank you very much for listening and being a wonderful audience.
May we be seated, please? Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful lecture. 287,000 women die every year. I heard that clearly. And Nigeria has the highest now. It was not so before. Why? Here is a research question to take home. Spiritism and maternal mortality, or the spirit behind maternal mortality, is it a reality or a myth? Let's research and come back with answers. Celebrate me now. Something came out of our lectures. That means I listened very well. Thank you very much, ma'am. The midwife, the woman and her ecosystem, a triumvirate for reducing maternal mortality. We have been richly blessed. And I know that we have something to tell women out there as a warning to ensure that this does not continue. Nigeria must go back to number 10 or number 50. In Jesus' name, amen. Once again, therefore, please permit me, because our time is fast spent, to invite the chairman of this occasion to step forward for presentation of the lecture notes by the inaugural lecturer through exchange of momentum.
Madam Vice Chancellor, here represented by our amiable Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Mrs. Enonta. I have the special privilege of presenting a copy of my inaugural lecture to you. On behalf of the University of Calabar management, I'm presenting this memento to Professor Epkpoanwan, Esienumoh, Professor of Midwifery, as the 134th lecturer, University of Calabar. I'm presenting on behalf of the chairman, Professor Florence Zankodi, today, 22nd January, 2025.
To invite the chairman committee of the Professor Ekaitena to give a vote of thanks.
The Vice Chancellor, Professor Florence Banku Obi, who is here represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration. It is my pleasure to stand here to give this vote of thanks. First of all, I want to thank the Almighty God who has helped us this far, especially on behalf of the 134th inaugural lecturer, for his grace, for his mercy, for his preservation of the inaugural lecturer, today's inaugural lecturer. I want to appreciate the inaugural lecturer, who happens to also be my very personal friend, my personal person, as I will call her, for giving us some food to thoughts. You will agree with me, listening to the inaugural lecturer, that the statistics on maternal death is very alarming, especially for our nation, Nigeria. And from the state home, they take home from this lecture, you find out that if we must reduce maternal mortality, then it's going to take a collaborative work for the woman, the midwife, and her ecosystem. If you are not a midwife in this house, you are a woman. If you are not a woman, you are part of the ecosystem. So all of us are involved. I appreciate our Vice Chancellor for always supporting us to do this academic festival every 2 weeks. Please, ma, convey our sincere appreciation to the Vice Chancellor. We thank other members of the University of Calabar management team. All the DVCs were here. Some have stepped out, the registrar, the librarian is here. I want to appreciate the deans of faculty and directors of institute and all the other members of the University of Calabar Senate for finding time. It was really a tight day today, but they are here to support the lecturer. Thank you so much for coming. I also want to specifically appreciate the Dean of Allied Medical Sciences. You are beating us to it. Don't worry, we'll meet up and we'll even bypass you. Thank you, Dean. And also the head of department and members of staff and students of the Department of Nursing Science. Thank you for giving her a supportive work environment to be able to carry out her research. I want to thank the family of the inaugural lecturer. If the home front is not stable, she will not be standing here today. Thank you so much for your support. I thank the friend of the inaugural lecturer for helping us to have more insight on the person of the inaugural lecturer. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the clergymen in the house and also the members of my constituency, the Unical Chapel of Redemption. If you are one of them, can you shout praise the Lord? Thank you so much for coming around. We appreciate you. I want to thank especially the members of the staff of the information unit. They always come up here to establish protocols for us to stand on, and also the staff of the development units of the registrar. They are the unseen hands behind this preparation. We appreciate you. I thank all our invited guests. Maybe if I didn't mention you, know that you are appreciated. You're coming, and we will gather again sometime in March, and we appeal to you to come around to listen to the lecture. We pray that God Almighty will see you, take you safely back to your destinations in Jesus' name.
We've come to the end of this exercise. At this point, kindly permit me call on the chairman again, one more time, to come up and make her closing remark.
Wow, that was a good one, wasn't it? I know the registrar and the chair committee of deans have said things about what they have learned or what they are supposed to take home. Well, you know, in a typical university setting, we all are teachers. Now, let me just ask, how many of us have female children in the hall? Just indicate. Do I have a female child? Okay. How many of us will direct them to a TBA for them to have a child? Wow, see, you have already won them all over. I said it, that surely we will all live here. We must have learned something that will stay with us.
Where I come from, they talk about Epkpoanwan. They talk about that as you are going, as the woman is going, the thing will just sit like this, and then she start bleeding. When she's bleeding, they will say, "Oh, she must have been
unfaithful.
When the baby is too big, they will say, "Oh, it's a demonic child," and all kinds of things. And so we celebrate women. When a woman goes in and comes out, we know it is a life and death battle. But we thank God, it has been faithful. Even when we have been stupid. Because like you said, many times, the woman will elect to go to a TBA. She will elect to go to someone who sees vision for her. She will elect to go to a charlatan who is probably, they will say is a doctor, but actually is a chemist. And then when it happens, we say it is her mother, or her father, or her neighbor, or whatever, what have you. Is she there to speak for herself? No. And so she has challenged us. When you go out there, because that is not my child, that is not my sister, that is not my sister, that is not my family. It is knowledge we have now gained, and that knowledge will only be useful if we pass it on to others. And so once again, I want to thank you. In short, to have been perfect students. If we were to give you a score, nothing less than 98%. Thank you very much for joining us. This is what we do every 2 weeks. Now we have an inkling of what Professor Esienumoh has been doing all these years. We got to appreciate her more. And we want to thank God for her. Because really, the future is still very bright. There is a lot more that should be done. And we know that by His grace, we will continue to take pride in her work. She will continue to be our ambassador out there. Those rural communities, she seems to understand what they see. So she will know how to get more of them. But I said to myself, I told her, I said all of this was possible. When you married a naval man, all you needed to do get into the boat, and it will take you to the farthest end of even the farthest village in any community. So, sir, we say thank you for all the support you've given here. We are sure there are still many more villages for us to touch. Thank you, Prof. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you, my colleagues. I know it's been a long day, and well, I used to ask me, so I'm sure we'll all survive this. Thank you, the audience, especially the clergy and her family. Thank you, friends and members of the university community. Come again in 2 weeks' time, and you will find yet another inaugural taking place here. And on behalf of my Vice Chancellor, I really must thank you. I will tell her that we will all hear. Bless you. I think we can give
a resounding applause. At this point, the I and L
We will be gathering here on the 12th of March, 2025, for another intellect. We are not going to have any ferry because of examination. So, for March 12th, we'll be gathering here, same time, same venue. And the lecturer will be the provost, college of postgraduate studies.
He was here
earlier.
They had to send
They had to send for him. Said that to please seek permission on his behalf. That's all the person, the professor, Can we put our hands together for him?
So please call
with large numbers. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just like the chairman just said, we have come to the end of the 134th inaugural lecture. So please don't leave the hall. Members of the high table will step down and have a good photograph. And immediately after that, we'll take the University of Calabar. So please don't leave the hall. Thank you so much.
There will be session.
Led by members of the high table. Immediately followed by lecturers that are with the academic that are with. Thank you so
Please do not leave the hall. There will be sessions immediately after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, everybody smile.
Can we have the husband?
Have a fun.
Spouse. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Can we please rise? Can we rise? Can we please rise as we take the University of Calabar? Nursing anthem. Okay, recessional song. Members of the high table will take the lead.